Hello again and welcome to MasterMind Minutes. My name is Gary Occhiogrosso. I am the managing partner for Franchise Growth Solutions. That's this poster in back of me. You can learn more about us by clicking on the link above or below the webcast or the podcast. It depends how you're watching or listening to the program. And MasterMind Minutes, for those of you who are joining us for the very first time, is a very simple format. We have one guest, we ask one question, and we have one expert answer. And I realize that that's a tease for a lot of people. So at the end of the program, we will certainly give you the contact information of the guest, and we encourage you to contact the guest directly. So today, my guest is a longtime associate and friend who I met way back in like the 1990s, I think when dinosaurs ruled the world, Anthony Leone. And Anthony has a very extensive background in quick service restaurants. That's how we met. It's been his sole focus for the past 27 years. I mean, that's what this guy does. We've worked together on a lot of different projects. He began his career at Boston Market, where he was hired as an assistant manager, but within 1 year, he became the youngest district manager in the company. After years of successful positions in food service, he decided to take matters into his own hands, as he describes it, kind of take the bull by the horns. And he ventured out on his own, and he launched his own brand, Energy Kitchen, which here in New York had units all over. And he can tell us some of the other states where it operated. But he combined his passion for health, fitness, and the QSR business. And that's really what drove Energy Kitchen. He built it into a multi-state brand, employing over 250 people and growing it through not only corporate units, but also franchised and non-traditional units. He won the Torch Award from FIU for his accomplishments in the hospitality field. And he works in all aspects of QSR management, and we've worked in several different ones. He touches on franchise development, operations, training, HR, finance, marketing, construction. He does it all. And like myself, he loves to work with startups and emerging brands and helping them with systems and guiding them to strategically grow their systems. And we have, in addition to a lot of things we have in common, we have that in common. He's a graduate of the Florida International University with a hospitality management degree. And Anthony, before we get into the question, first of all, thank you so much for being with us today. How are you doing? How are you? How are you dealing with all of this?
We're hanging in there. Us in the restaurant world, franchising starting to pick up here. People are looking sort of, to purchase jobs and things like that as, sectors, get closed and some open up. So staying busy.
Great. Tell me about what you're doing. Tell me about QSR. If there's anything I've left out of your background, you want to fill in the blanks, and then we'll get to the question.
I did an amazing job as always, Gary. No, I'm listening to QSR Franchise Development Group. We are sort of like a one-stop shop for that QSR segment. That's really what we focus in on. Mm-hmm. Where you, Gary, you focus in a whole bunch of different sectors you can help. We really try to just stay into that one segment. So it's anywhere from someone approaching us and saying, hey, listen, I have an idea of a concept. How would I go at expanding it? And then we'll get into branding and logo and tagline and menu development and, aesthetics and look and feel of the restaurant, equipment packages, all the way through, where someone says, listen, I really need to sell. Can you help me drive sales and then sell it? So and anything in between.
Right. And, for those of you listening, you're saying to yourself, well, gee, that sounds a lot like what you do. And it's true. I mean, we have a lot of overlap. Anthony and I are friendly competitors. Actually, I don't even consider us competitors, even though we do a lot of the same things, because we trade information, we help each other out. That's one of the things that I love about the franchising business, that people, even though they might be competing in the same industry, they're very, very open and honest and giving of information. We had Alicia Visconti on a few weeks ago, who is the CEO of FranServe. I don't know if you know Alicia, but we were kind of talking about that whole mentality in franchising, where unlike a lot of other businesses, franchisors tend to help each other a lot. They trade information. Hey, here's what works for me. Here's what doesn't work. I mean, it's, people refer to it. I was at IFA in February down in Florida, and they refer to the Fran family or the Framily, and it's very, very true in this business. So let's get to the question, okay? Because you and I deal with this a lot.
Yes.
Why don't we talk a little bit about, after you kind of maybe give us an overview, and I've got my notes here with some definitions. By the way, I want to clearly disclaim here that Anthony and I are not giving any legal advice, okay? Neither of us are attorneys. So if you hear anything that sounds legalese, I certainly would recommend that you contact your franchise attorney and check out. But these are the things that we've learned over the years. So why don't we start out with the question, and that is, tell us the difference between franchising and licensing.
Absolutely. Gary, as you know, you've been in the industry for a very, very long time. And one of the biggest sort of mistakes or nightmares that we see out there is when we get a call and the concept thinks that they're licensed and they're actually franchising, and unraveling all that and then trying to get them on a path for go through franchising. The main difference really, Gary, licensing, it's about control and support. Okay, really with licensing, you're buying either intellectual property or trademarks. And a lot of it is done sort of like in the manufacturing world, or, in these big brands, let's say like Disney. So for example, here's my favorite character, Tigger. Okay, and Tigger is now on this mug. And I might have bought this at a store in Walmart. So Disney sells a one-time fee, for a licensing right for a company like Walmart or whatever to use their trademarks and everything to make these products, to sell them, and then Disney gets paid.
Right, and that's the essence of a license. I mean, on a franchise side, and there's probably several things on a list, but the big three, if you're wondering if you're really a franchise, is you're using kind of a common name. So, all your shops were energy kitchens, that common name. There's a fee that's paid, either a franchise fee or a royalty. And then also the fact that you're helping them get set up and you're supplying training. Whereas in your example, whoever makes the cups that you just showed us, they license that image, but Disney doesn't show them how to make a coffee mug.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's many vendors making that coffee mug. Here with franchising, it's one franchisor. And Gary, you're absolutely right as far as the thresholds that go to become a franchise. Absolutely. You're using their trademark. All right. So you all have all the logo, the tagline, the trade dress. That's what they're offering up to you. There is an upfront fee. Okay. They have control of your business in the aspect of they're telling you what POS to use, the recipes to use as far as quick service restaurants go, the menu boards, the tile, the furniture, the fixtures, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then the very low threshold too is a royalty of only $500 needs to be paid throughout the year. And that threshold is very, very low, and if all those things are in line, then you are a franchise 99% of the time.
Right, and therein lies the dilemma and the question where people don't understand the difference between franchising and licensing. So I know when we go and interview a client or do a franchise feasibility study, and you hear the same thing, maybe you got a story to tell about this, but we'll hear that, all right, so the person owns whatever, a pizzeria or a bagel shop, and he's been in business 20 years and he does great, but he's got 4 other guys that are running bagel shops under the same name, and he thinks he's a franchise. And the reality is he has no documentation, and we should talk about what that documentation is. And he just basically is doing the things that a franchisor would do, but he's not a legal franchise. So have you run into that at all?
A lot. Absolutely, Gary. A lot of it happens with like family members, where they bring family members into the business and they pay them a fee, and then they're collecting royalties or selling them the goods, let's say like sort of Carvel does. And and they think they're a license, but they're really a franchise. But in your example, they have no FDD. They are not registered.
Right. All right. Well, wait. Okay, let's take a step back, though, because we know what we're talking about. So the folks who tune into this regularly, FDD, by the way, and you've heard me use that term, that stands for Franchise Disclosure Document, sort of like a prospectus, an offering circular, whatever term, but in the franchise business, it's Franchise Disclosure Document. So what's in there, Anthony? Let's talk about why we have an FDD and what's in there and why that, I mean, we'll talk about why it's necessary and how it really protects the buyer.
Absolutely.
The FDD, talk about that a bit.
Absolutely. But yes, you just mentioned about protection. There's much more protection for the buyer in a franchise than a license. You have very little legal, like, sort of ramifications out under a licensee. All right. You got much more protection as a franchisee.
Right.
But that franchise disclosure document is an immense document that has every sort of, you know, if they have an item 19, which they could tell us their sales, they give you sales. They tell you, you know, everything from franchisees that they bought, that they've come in, that have left the system. It's an all-encompassed document, sort of like a business plan a little bit, giving you the potential franchisee what that business is,
right.
Sort of in a document, one compressed file document.
Right, and just to kind of add to that, they're all FDDs, all franchise disclosure documents cover the same 23 items, and that, by the way, that's whether you're a McDonald's or just some person starting up, and maybe you don't even have any franchisees yet, but the FDD covers the same 23 items, and again, it's disclosure. You want to know if the person who started that company ever was convicted of fraud, for example. You want to know, item 7, for example, is a chart that explains what the low investment and the high investment might be to build whatever it is that you're building, Joe's Bagel Shop. The other thing about the FDD, and Anthony mentions it rightly so about protection, is a franchisor has to give you this document at least 14 days. In some states, I think it might be 10, but I always err on the 14 days. So what's the 14 days about? Well, the 14 days is kind of a cooling off period, because you meet a franchise salesperson, and I've been in franchise sales for 30 years, but you know, my approach to it is more educational than hype. But there's a lot of people out there that are hyping people, and you know, they right away they want to sign up. But the FDD is kind of, you take a breath, you kind of meditate on it, you read this document, you take it to your attorney. So the FDD is a very, very important piece. Now, to Anthony's point, and you know, licensees don't have an FDD, right? License agreements.
Right. So, you know, so like restaurateurs that I've seen, you know, try to go the less expensive route and think that they're licensing up front, because it is an investment, you know, into getting a franchise disclosure document and getting all your spec books and all your operation manuals and training manuals and everything else done, you know. But in the long run, if they really want to scale a business correctly, you know, starting out as a licensee is really not the way to go. Starting out correctly as a franchise, you know, getting all those documents in place, you know, really will help you in the long run. You won't be uncovering mistakes that you did years prior.
Right. Right. So I guess to kind of sum it up here, a licensing agreement versus a franchise, and the danger there is a lot of people think they're licensing, but they're actually franchising, which means they're breaking franchise regulations. So if you're a business owner and you're thinking that, hey, somebody came in my store and they want to know if I would show them how to do this, if you collect money, if you teach them and they use your name, you know, like the saying is, you can put lipstick on a pig and call it Monique, but it's still a pig. You can dress up what you think is a license, but it's still a franchise. So you're out of legal compliance. So that's an issue. The other thing is the person who buys that is less protected. By the way, as the licensor or franchisor, you also have a lot less remedy because you haven't followed the rules, so to speak. And then, you know, the idea of how you can grow that business, and again, that's what Anthony and I do, how you grow that business is limited because certain states don't recognize what you've done because you don't have this franchise disclosure document. So, Anthony, I could talk with you about this and a lot of other things for hours and hours, and I got to take the drive down You know, we got to go sit in a restaurant 6 feet apart maybe and have a drink or do something.
I look forward to that.
But as I always tell folks, this is kind of a tease, this podcast. Why don't you tell folks how they can get in touch with you the best way? And
Sure.
again, we will, when we put this, we amplify this on LinkedIn. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify, Apple, Google. It also gets emailed out in my franchise magazine, franchisemoneymaker.com. So we'll kind of put in writing what is there. But why don't you tell the folks how they can get in touch with you if they want to pick up the phone or get to their computer right now?
Absolutely. They can go to our website, which is QSRFranchiseDevelopmentGroup.com. My email address is Anthony@QSRFranchiseDevelopmentGroup.com. And so, listen, if you have any questions, you know, and you're thinking about starting a business or whatever, and you're unsure if it's licensed or franchise, do yourself a favor. Call Gary, call a franchise attorney, myself, whatever, and just make sure you're doing the right to get it started the correct way.
Yeah, and that's great advice because, as you know, and I know, and you know, I do seminars on this at IFE. In the beginning, if you set your company up the wrong way, when you're looking at get that kiss at the end from the private equity guy, he's not kissing you, or he's kissing you for a lot less money because it's what, you know, you kind of messed it up in the beginning. So again, Anthony, thank you so much for being here. It's so good to see you. I like your Mets stuff in the background. We're both Mets fans. I'm happy to hear. Hopefully we'll have baseball this year.
I hope so too. Gary, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. All right, man. Be well, and I'll see you soon live and in person.
Sounds great. Look forward to it.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.